The damned dozen were fighting the Dream-Devouring Siltcurrent, but where was Captain Ahab and her crew? Well, let's find out, shall we? Before we continue from there, I want to talk about the events and eager gifts that either do appear or might be gained in the story dungeon. So basically, all of Act 3. This is based on the choices made in the dungeon. Upon arriving in the Palace Whale, Ishmael received a noose, as in what's used for hanging, as in what's used to choke someone to death with using gravity. Where it makes Ishmael level 40, where identities in each are level 4, and the compulsion status is granted while inside the story dungeon. Beating Craig the first time, upon Ishmael provoking Pequod Town, grants the reverse knots, which gives one ally with the lowest SP 5 SP if a clash is won using Gloom affinity. In the events just after leaving Pequod Town, when something was heard shaking underneath the ship, one of the damned dozen was sent to check this out. Well, if someone was sent to check this out, then 10 SP is granted. Yes, this in this case was Ishmael, and they found mermaids, with the suggestion that one of them pushed them off before they latch on. And if the check is passed, then the one selected receives 15 HP damage and the melted LCCB employee badge. Yes, that EGO gift is quite grim considering that the LCCB team, the before team, were devoured, where pride damage is reduced by 10%. However, if Ishmael was chosen to deal with this, it's much the same, except she also receives the Desperate Knots, which deals additional damage when using Envy, Wrath, and Gloom affinity skills, which is exactly what the reindeer identity deals with, doesn't it? And if 6 or more resonance is achieved with one of them, it grants 10% more damage. However, if this check fails, then whoever is chosen loses 10 SP, and those selected to fight have to fight some mermaids. However, if the decision to stay put is made, if it works out, then Ishmael will lose 10 SP, and if it doesn't, Ishmael will lose 10 SP, and all allies will lose 10 SP as well. And they'd have to fight mermaids. Either way, if they win, the melted LCCB employee badge is granted. Yes, I think we know what the best option in that is. After a fight against some more mermaids in the way, they encountered a narrow passage. Mermaids were swimming under the ship. 2 directions were before them, and someone was needed to keep track of them. If the one who is chosen has chosen wisely, choosing left, then that sinner was healed for 5 SP However, if Ishmael is chosen, she also gets the cross knot, which grants 2 attack power, if 15 HP was lost in one turn. However, if that check fails, then the sense of direction of the one chosen fails under pressure. The chosen loses 5 SP, and a fight with more mermaids is upon them. After that, someone will need to continue keeping track of their directions. If they try the same method, they'll say they go straight, and if successful, they get healed for 10 SP. However, if Ishmael is chosen, then she's also on the way to getting the cross knot, if she didn't get it already. If they failed, then it's a case of doing the same method and unsuccessfully getting a different result. The chosen loses more SP, 5 SP to be more precise, and another battle against mermaids was before them. After that, they were almost out. But it was too soon to relax. If successful with the next check, then whoever is chosen heals for 15 SP, and the Ejo gift Mermaid Oil is granted, which grants 1 additional tremor to whichever enemy is attacked using a skill that deals that. Unless it's Ishmael, in that case, it's that and the cross knot, if that hasn't already been gained, with some camaraderie between her and Queequeg. However, if this check fails, then there's more mermaids to fight to get the cross knot Ejo gift, and the selected the selected sinner rather, loses 10 SP. Yes, it can be quite taxing on the mind, having that kind of responsibility, doesn't it? After fighting the Ambling Pearl, they sailed for a while without anything eventful happening. Then they hit a thick solid wall, likely a valve. Then mermaids appeared to grab them and attack them. Someone had to keep the mermaids off the ship. If the one that was chosen was successful, then the chosen was healed for 20 SP, and all others healed for 5 SP. Unless it was Ishmael that was chosen, then it's the same, and she gets the compulsive knot, which grants 1 more final attack power to Envy, Wrath, and Gloom, if less than 0 SP. Well, that is convenient of her. However, if the one that's chosen fails, the chosen loses 20 SP and all loses 10 HP and SP. And then, after that, after fighting a group of mermaids in Pecatulum, along with the Skin Prophecy, they encountered the Artery. They needed to cut it open and find the path to the heart, which they did so. Sadly, it's tougher than expected. Someone would need to cut it open with a single strike. If the chosen is successful, the path opens after the blood leaks out of it and all are healed for 10 SP. Yes, 10 SP. And this is regardless of who is chosen, who is successful. If they fail, they can still cut it open, but with a more brute force approach, and the chosen loses 20 HP. After clearing the Pecatulum in the way, they encountered some supply crates. Some from the Twin Hook Pirates, some from the Before team. If they chose to leave them alone, they're left alone, seeing it is too dangerous. But if the decision was to rummage through them for anything useful, someone would need to smash the Twin Hook Pirates crate open. If done with the right force, they gain the Rusted Hook EGO gift, which grants 1 poise if a skill's first coin lands on heads against an enemy with bleed. Well, awfully specific. If fails, then its contents are destroyed beyond anything useful. Or indeed usable. Then they find a crate that belonged to the before team. If successful with the check, then they'll find a standard issue ammo magazine. Ooh, that's hard to come by at the best of times. That's an EGO gift that grants identities with ammo 3 more max ammo at the start of each battle. If it's Faust, Ryushu, Ishmael, or Rodia that does this check, then it becomes easier, but the same effect happens. Okay, I'm not sure if it's Faust that has a LCTB identity. Perhaps that's hinted for the future, but the others definitely do. If they fail, it's locked tighter with an additional locking mechanism, and it's outside of their reach, and they decide to move on after that. Right, now that we've got up to date with the story dungeon events and the EGO gifts, let's move on to the story. After gaining the Endorphin Kit EGO gift from the suppression of the Dream-Devouring Siltcurrent, which works the same as it does in the Mirror Dungeon, where those that have skills that grant poise get more poise. As for the Skin Prophecy, the EGO gift with that is to do with burn. And the Ambling Pearl grants a debuff to enemies if attacked with Gluttony. Just outside the way into the heart, Ahab saw them as doing much better than expected. Gregor was annoyed by her just standing there, watching them fight. Yes, I wouldn't really call them allies, the crew of the Pequod. She admitted that she would have just gotten in the way. Well, considering that she specializes in hunting whales, not abnormalities, that might be true. Dante observed that she's lost most of her crew on the way there. Greg said, "Rest of crew not there? Only 5 now? Why?" Ahab asks if she dared question her now, believing that she's picked this up from her present company. She had enough left, the rest were considered disposable. Seeing as Dante and the Damned Dozen as leaving quite an impression on Greg. Greg insisted. She said, "Say it, why?" Before Ahab did, she asked Greg for her greeting for her captain, for her surviving compatriots, especially when the heart itself is presented before them. They were this close to killing the whale. Then we see the partially polidified Pip. He hates mermaids, he wants to get out of there. The pail kept trying to eat him, it won't come off. Ahab noticed that the palidification effect is progressing. The closer they got to the heart, the faster it was getting, and it was getting bothersome. Dante agreed with her on this. The panification effect indeed was intensifying. Ahab noticed that Dante and the damned dozen were somehow completely unaffected, and she was irritated by Dante's ticking sound. That was when she strode towards Dante, asking them, what will she find in that clock head? Dante wasn't sure what she was getting at. She looked at their head and raised it to return her gaze. Then Dante's psychometry ability granted by the Golden Boughs activated, and what they saw, it wasn't pleasant. They saw Ahab's journey through the Pancreas. A villager was hanging from the boat, pleading with Ahab to help them, believing that she wouldn't let them turn into a mermaid. Ahab commented that it wasn't the right method. Then a despairing villager pleaded with her to not cut the sinew bridge, as everyone behind them would. But Pip cut the vein to cause the bridge to collapse, and everyone behind them either fell to their deaths or certain doom. Ahab told him that Stub would be overjoyed to witness his exploits. Pip was almost as deranged as Ahab, as he's asking if Stub was watching over him, asking if they can kill the hateful whale, laughing manically. Then Ahab, later on, decided to do a Spartan kick with another villager, with a shocked villager asking why she said that she kicks that lad there, as it wasn't the right path. Then she asked someone if they dared beg for their life. Then a villager was hesitating to kill a fully transformed mermaid. Ahab believed that every moment, every second that they wasted, the end of days grew near. Every beating of that pallid whale's heart was a bell tolling for the end of the world. She told them that they can stop the apocalypse with their own two hands, yet they kneel there and dare to grovel for their life, to make the sacrifices of the crew out as being for nothing. Seeing this is unbelievable. That villager didn't see it that way at all. They didn't want to die. For that cause they will. She denied that they'll die. She never and will never order. Let's put it in a different way. She will never order her crew to their deaths. Not ever. She sends them to greatness, not death. Wait, greatness? More like send them to suffer a fate which death would actually be a mercy by comparison. She used all except those that was with her from the moment she entered the Palace Whale as expendable fodder, so that they could get there intact. Clearly, only Pip, Starbuck, and Queequeg mattered. If the others kept her alive long enough, does she even acknowledge that any of them were real? Were they just toys to her to over however she wished? Sure seemed that way. Ahab then noticed that Dante's head had an odd power, much like the peculiarities of each whale. Queequeg understood that the Pequod crew sank right before Heart, all except Pip and Starbuck, because of Ahab. Dante saw it as a mistake to expect even a hint of surprise or shame from the captain. Yeah, as that would imply that she actually gave a about anyone but herself. Certainly not when it was revealed that she sent her crew to their deaths, and this made Ahab laugh with the same style as the Joker and Kefka, manically and full of insanity. and she confirmed this herself, saying that she can indeed claim that she sacrificed the crew, although I'm unsure if it can be called a sacrifice, as that implied that they were valued rather than worthless. She expected that their wandering the whale transformed into mermaids, the lucky ones turning into sludge in the acid. Gregor asking why, failing to comprehend the psycho captain. Ahab knew that heart better than anyone in the world. Yes, anyone else, even more than her own body. The pancreas that they journeyed through was an endlessly winding maze. If their limbs were melted off, they'd have no means to recover them, as the damned doesn't have. She believed that she had to calculate the ideal path to the heart, not caring about losses, seeing no injustice committed by her pursuit of punctuality. She even encouraged and reminded them of their pride and greatness as they drew their last breaths. Roughly translated from psycho speak, she said, "I don't give a how many others have to die, as long as we got to where we have to go. That's all that matters. If they don't understand that, I had to beat it into them." As for injustice, that would imply that she had a working moral compass. She had none, even by that world's standards. Ahab believed that it couldn't be helped. They made sure that they perished before fear overwhelmed them. Her crew and her are one, bound by oath. The promise that they'll hunt the pallid whale, whatever it takes. Asking, are they not? Ishmael. Now they shall. She shall, said that sail to the heart. Does she ever get tired of her own voice? Ahab, I mean. Ahab agreed. She told them that they need one last piece of the puzzle before they set sail. With her burning eyes, she turned to Dante to face them. She spoke of the shard of the Golden Bough. Dante didn't know why she demanded that. She understood that what was in their head was a piece of the Golden Bough, which counteracted the palladification effect. Asking if she's wrong in assuming that it's how Dante and the damned dozen are unaffected. Soon their final battle for everything will commence, and for victory she'll spare no quarter. None shall know what happened there, at the heart of the whale, from which all the evil of the city, of the world, sprout. Well, the only thing that's spouting is the that you're speaking. Have you visited the straitjacket section of the nearest department store? She noted that Dante wasn't, they were the only one inexperienced in combat, asking what if they were to perish? What fate shall befall their crew? Should they meet a pathetic end without having destroyed the whale heart? Dante was struggling to answer this. Every one of them will turn into mermaids within hours. Dante asked what the she wanted them to do. She then demanded that they hand over the Golden Bough in their head, and she'll swear by her name that she'll personally see to it that everyone trapped within the whale safely made it to the world outside. Starbuck said that the captain wasn't wrong. Dante saw it as making some sense, and Ahab seeing it as all it takes is a single sacrifice to ensure that everyone survives, down to every single crew member. Don Quixote protested at this. She won't let Ahab take Dante's head. Ooh, time for the lunatics to debate. It's like The American Festival of Lies that occurs every 4 years in November. Ahab asks, then what? Fails to destroy its heart and lets them all be mermaids together? Is that how they wish their tale to end? Don Quixote struggled to answer. Ahab asked if there was not something out there past the pallid whale that awaits their return, something that drives them, a desire, a goal, a mission that they must see to its end, once they escape that whale. Dante understood that Ahab was cutting through into their hearts, cracking them little by little, and nesting in there. Even the damned dozen were moved by his speech, briefly. That brief lapse is all it takes for that thought to spread as water freezes between the cracks of a rock. Dante was sure that's what she's always done. All to manipulate and exploit others as her tools to use and discard at her whim. All of a sudden, when everything reached a crescendo, it would shatter, and she would break them. Ishmael, Ahab's crew, it's what she's done to them. Dante told Faust to translate this message, and she agreed to do so. She's not going to be responsible for the sinners, and no one knows what will happen to the sinners if their head is crushed. They're not going to let the doubts she cast chart their futures, because they're the manager. And this actually caused Heathcliff to take Dante seriously for once. Hard to blame him after they said that. It's basically saying, shut it up, you're crazy. You're not in command of this lot. I am. Ahab saw this as predictable, asking if they're pleading for life now. Dante admitted that they don't want to die, and Faust paused after that. Dante considered to themselves the word sacrifice, a gilded name given to death so that it won't feel so hollow when it claims them. As I said before, sacrifice is giving up the valued, not the worthless. And it's not a sacrifice in this context, as to Ahab, life is truly worthless. Much like it is to those higher up in the wings. Dante has seen those few, those troubled few, those band of emotional retards, die 1,000 deaths. They've shared their pain with Dante, the pain that killed them, more times than they'd care to remember. They felt the weight of every death, so this can't be wrapped up in a pretty box labelled sacrifice. They endured endlessly. Their collective struggle had significance and meaning, and it's because of them they share the weight and convey their own feelings to their battles, to reach their own dreams. They follow their personal desires, selfish or otherwise. So that struggle is no sacrifice. For a start, they do so to get what they want. With Gregor, it's to fully resolve his business with Herman, for all the pain she's caused him. With Rodia, it's to resolve her guilt regarding her bringing the middle to her hometown in District 25 and getting her loads of them killed as part of a punishment killing. With Sinclair, it's to deal with the guilt that he condemned his family to death by letting Chroma of NCORB's Psycho Division the hammer and nails to his home. and Yi Sang had unfinished business with the traitor among the Circle of Nine, Dong Rang. And this is why Dante won't seek death willingly. Certainly not before they recall their own memories. Ishmael saw Ahab as unchanging. Actually, she's become more revolting than before. Ishmael struggled. She thrashed, yet again she had them in the palm of her hands, commandeering their ship, turning her into one of her crew again, and she told her to shut up. This is a moment of paramount importance. Then the path to the heart opened as Ahab finished her words. They could now proceed to whatever happened next at the heart of the pallid whale. At the pallid whale's heart, or at least the part of the whale that the heart is in, Ahab asked if they saw this. It's the amalgamation of all that it's devoured. It's what made the pallid whale breathe. Its heart pounded, and from there, its evil spouted. Yes, that's what was behind it, and it spewed evil again, and again. Ah yes, much like you spout again, and again. You'd know all about that, wouldn't you? Ishmael told her to stop laughing like she's happy when the path there was paved with the lives of her own crew. She suffered her whole life, everything, her dreams, her friends, all of them, sank right before her eyes. It was her. She did this to her. The rage was building inside of Ishmael. Ahab confirmed this. It was as if she led her crew to her deaths, and Ahab asked what of it, as if it was any concern of hers, even though she was responsible for that. Seeing their fates as being sealed the moment the pallid whale swallowed them, fated to become mermaids, fated to wander its stomach until they keeled over and died. She believed that she saved them, where she merely reaped recompense for extending their lives even for a fleeting moment. She looked after them, watched over them, and led them to that place, and for that she was rightly rewarded. She was the one who sparked the proverbial fire in their meaningless, pathetic lives, seeing it as always being her that did that. Or in simpler language, she used them as payments for extending their time, at least partially, as humans, for at least longer than they would have had normally, for her own personal gain. It's why I see the morally challenged, such as psychopaths and sociopaths, as those that truly have no friends. No real ones. Only allies or disposable tools and assets. As friends implies that she actually cares about them as people. Where she remembered the day that her crew boarded her ship. Not a spark of light manifested in those aimless eyes of theirs. Seeing this as a pathetic display. Seeing them as flotsam floating without direction. She told them that she gave their worthless lives a reason to go on. On the Pequod, they sailed with conviction. Or rather, that's what Ahab wanted them to think. Yes, they had direction and conviction, but not for the reasons that she preached. She was using them for her own goals. Even Stubb, whom she had turned into a pallid mermaid in order to have a compass to locate the pallid whale and get its attention. It's all colourful excuses, lies and half-truths. This enraged Ishmael further. Disagreeing with her, she devoured her crew whole, painted over their wills just like the whales. No, worse than that. Just like the pallid whale, moulding them and shaping them to fit her wants and needs. They didn't board that ship to hunt a specific whale. Ahab already knew that. Ahab confirmed this. She couldn't care less about her reasons. She believed that the moments that they set foot upon her ship, their sights should have rightly been set upon the pallid whale, telling her that she should know better than anyone that their hearts were flimsy, letting themselves be swallowed because they were shallow, that they let themselves be moulded because they were weak. No, that's because you made them shallow. You made them weak. So Ahab is, well, she's resorting to gaslighting now? How pathetic is she? As if to confirm my perspective of her, she believed that she was the only one that mattered. What mattered was that she declared that beast evil. That was her commandment. Her belief, her religion, and her creed. When she perishes, that world shall perish as well. Along with her very life, her very existence itself, is then the world. She has deemed it so. None shall be the helmsman of her life but her. None shall live her life in her stead. Yes, how narcissistic. Her belief is delusional, as it is one that revolves around her. Her religion is like one of the other scams out there in that world, and her creed is one that sees everyone else as toys for her to break on her whim. She asks, what do they believe in? Demanding that they tell her that their belief is unbreakable and absolute. She sees her beliefs as absolute. Her definitions of good and evil are clear-cut. This makes her beliefs unclouded, unassailable, because she has made it so. It's not just me that's seeing that she's no longer the diplomatic type. I mean, if Don Quixote was still the crazy one at this point, she'd no longer be that after meeting this mad sea dog. She then told them that it's why she'll never be broken, it's why she stands tall, unshakable, as a missionary of her own faith. Ahab, you were broken long before you met Ishmael. She sees herself as blessing them with her absolute definitions of good and evil, so that they may live their lives with unhesitating, unwavering tenacity. Sounds more like being enslaved in a way that's even worse than the physical kind of enslavement. It's the slavery of the mind, where the bindings are inside the head rather than on the body. And after that raving mad drivel, Starbuck widely smiled while standing next to Ahab, as though a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Queequeg then put on her mask and stood next to Ahab, on the other side of her. Her shoulders laden, and her expression impossible to read, as her mask was covering it. With gritting teeth, or rather gritted teeth. Yes, that's a better way of putting it. Ishmael saw Ahab as her definition of evil. Her hatred, goals, failures, her past, and her losses, all from her. Ahab found this amusing, telling her to crash onto her like the waves to see which has the winning argument. The losses likely those she was unable to save, especially Queequeg, who stood with Ahab, even though her doubts were starting to disappear. And at that point, the Damned Dozen were forced to fight Ahab, Starbuck, and Queequeg, with Pip likely in a support role. Well, I think even with the age rating and the setting, it would be overdoing it to have a child fight. Well, certainly that young. And this is a setting where there's a district where it has back streets where cannibalism is common, and a wing that is able to serve up chicken wings and legs by putting its singularity into chickens who have their wings and legs repeatedly cut off, and which regenerate quickly without any pain. I mean, even in the first game set in this grimdark universe, it involved a wing that generated power by turning humans into abnormalities, and having those hired by this wing to go in with the abnormalities experience and full of pain and potential death. Well, in at least one case, the abnormality gives certain death, and quite a painful one. As for the battle itself, let's start with Queequeg. She can take the beating as well as dish it out, if a bit slow, which I'd expect nothing less from one that was considered for becoming a big sister of the middle. And there is strength in numbers. As she causes more damage, the more allies she has. She can certainly make her enemies bleed and can mark a specific target for the others to focus on. She also shields Ahab from directly being attacked. Sadly, she's weakest to blunt force trauma, as it was hinted at the end of the first battle against her. Starbuck is a glass cannon. He is the hardest hitting of them, but he can take the least amount of a beating. As for Ahab, she's not so durable, but Queequeg can take the beating for her, at least while Queequeg is alive. Ahab can also mark a specific target that can have her and any crew that's still alive focus on that combatant and take them down one by one. She's essentially directing the battle, and while she can attack them, she isn't primarily a fighter in this case. And during this battle, Starbuck and Queequeg are killed, and Ahab was alive but wounded. As for Pip, I suspect that he tries to flee that battle and Ahab had him killed. Which wouldn't surprise me, seeing this as desertion. Either that or she was killed. Well, Pip was killed by her, rather. Simply because she felt like it, not needing a reason for this. Seeing it likely as, you don't die until you order to die comes, so she rationalized that if I order someone to die, it's okay. Well, you get the idea. All of the Pequod's crew are dead, except Ahab at this point. It's not done yet. This battle, I mean. Next will be the conclusion of Chapter 5. Until next time, hail the rabbit!